The Journey Through a Distant Land, Volume 2. The Expansion of Modern Science by Amalgamating Royal Science by TZAFRIR Y. BEGGARMEN, M.B. Reading 5, Continuation, Article 2.2, The Alkaline Earth Metals. Alkaline metals make up Group 2 of the periodic table. They include beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, and radium. The next element we will converse about is part of Group 2 of the alkaline earth metals, called beryllium. Beryllium is the lightest member of the alkaline earth metals family. The origin of the name comes from the Greek word berylos, meaning memorable, also called glucidium, from the Greek word glucis, meaning sweet. Beryllium is a toxic bivalent element, steel gray, strong, lightweight, primarily used as a hardening agent in alloys. This element has one of the highest melting points of the light metals. It has excellent thermal conductivity. It is also non-magnetic. Nevertheless, beryllium is used as an alloying agent in producing beryllium copper, which is extensively used for springs and electrical contacts. It is applied as a structural material for high-speed aircrafts, missiles, spacecraft, and communication satellites. Weapons. To recapitulate, the lithium element and also the lithium human disposition wants to lose electrons to be like hydrogen. Lithium wants to lose one electron to achieve nearest to incorporeal configuration, achieving nearest to spiritual serenity, as in the nature of the lukewarm quality of the lithium disposition. If they give in to the ionization process of the trials and tribulations, spiritual fire, the symbol of Yahweh's acceptance. Instead of wavering back and forth from darkness to light, beryllium doesn't actually form cations because its valence electrons are held very, very tightly by the nucleus, which in royal science is likened to codes of honor and ethos, and for the intellectual beryllium disposition, and revengeful grudges and forms of a malicious scheme. Beryllium ionization potential is very high, so it mostly forms covalent bonds with an alloy. Author's important note: alloys, in the royal science point of view, are the wicked crystallized servants of the devil, who are not as the rich, who are very selfish and self-absorbed and are hydrated and locked from the way to heaven. No, these are of a deeper sinking, and to a willful design of rebellion. They have fully cloaked themselves with the image of Satan. The alloy's human disposition is the wealthy rulers of the world who are in charge of Lord Satan's riches, who are perfidious traitors to Yahweh and mankind, along with the lesser soldiers, secret societies. This is the alloy that beryllium forms bonds with, in a form of earthly arms. In royal science, this is the violent and warlike disposition or temperature. Here are the archives from royal science. Matthew 26, 52 and 54. Then Yahshua said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled, that it must be so?" This is an unfortunate example of an apostle of the divine word of power with the element of beryllium. Proverbs 3:31. Do not envy a man of violence, and do not choose any of his ways. This clearly shows that the man of violence has something to be envied of, the sweet appearance of elegance and might. They are found in the world with warlike intellects, warlike physical abilities, and sometimes with a mixture of both. Just like the physical element of beryllium in conjunction with the Greek name, people with this disposition or temperature are sweet in apparel, to appear as elegant people. With this warlike disposition or element, people with this beryllium makeup are steel gray in temperament, hard to reason with, and strong and lightweight in outward bodily form, made perfect for battle. This is beryllium symbol BE, battle. Just as beryllium is used as a hardening agent in alloys, the beryllium person is used and trained to be weapons or instruments of war, either intellectually or physically, in conjunction with the alloys, which are the wealthy leaders of the world, who are higher in the satanic scale of the pyramid of the dark than the rich. Those with this warlike temperature in the form of are devious and phenomenally covered with evil intangible substances of an envious, jealous, competitive bias, and a revengeful bearing or poise. As was said above, beryllium is highly resistant to heat, showing that the heavenly fire of the air in the form of a propelling force that causes regeneration. These beryllium people are heavily resistant to this fire and can resist trials and tribulations to their own detriment. For these trials and tribulations are the mercies of Yahweh to help dispel the carnal aspects of oneself that is energized by the fallen carnal mind. These tribulations train and assist in forming the individual to prepare him or her to survive the upper vibrations of the lofty heavens, the superior atmospheres. The trials are given in such a way in increments, designed and tailored to each individual in the removal of inherent carnality that are connected to mundane forms and images. If this was not divinely arbitrated, then one would not be able to enjoy everlasting joy. The reason that mankind would not be at peace in the heavens is because these terrene forms and images that are powered by the carnal mind are temporary and are arbitrated to be annihilated. Mankind will be missing these telluric images and forms and would have an unquenchable burning lust for these earthly tokens, with none to satisfy. For such is the hell consciousness. Beryllium is said to be non-magnetic. This is again seen in the beryllium-covered warlike human being. Their ternary centers are at odds with each other. There is no cohesion. These people have no magnetic center in their threefold apparatuses: their thinking center, emotional center, and bodily moving center. These apparatuses are all working for themselves, thus no equilibrium, therefore non-magnetic. Beryllium is resistant to attacks by concentrated nitric acid, which are the universal chemical activity / fallen angels or fallen thoughts, not allowing the dichotomization of these angels, which places them in tongues of fire to consume themselves. Royal Science, Matthew 5:39. But I say unto you, that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him also the other. 1 Corinthians 6:3. Know ye not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? The element beryllium is used to make all kinds of weapons, showing that this elemental, warlike dispositional covering is akin to the arts of weapons and the forging of them. Rather, these are weapons in the forms of words, in the intellectual mind of the bitter waters, or even that of earthly weapons of a mundane nature designed for the ending of physical life. Beryllium has a more stable resolve than that of alkali metals, so it will take a lot more trials and tribulations to bring a beryllium person to heal, unless the person under the disposition abnegates his or herself to the divine will of Yahweh through his word and heart given to all mankind at Calvary. 1 Peter 1:18-20. For you know that it was not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your forefathers, but with the precious blood of Yahshua, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. In conclusion of this alkaline earth metal, beryllium, we will present the remedy. One who has this beryllium disposition will have to use the inner will, which is the desire of the heart, and focus it towards the humbler state of love and patience. To force this temperature from such a one that is affected by the warlike element, one will have to deny the ego, all pride, and renounce all earthly glory. Clues of how to create the right chemicals to remove these gross elemental qualities infused in man will be available in the third article after the conclusion of the article at hand. Author's note 2. Hey, as we proceed giving deliberations on certain elements of the periodic table, there will be many factors purposely left out of the equation due to brevity of time. We only seek to give key information on the subject, enough to cause the reader to think for him or herself, to see the invisible royal science of these elements. We only seek to enlighten the reader on invisible substances and powers that plays a significant role in their evolution. We understand the knowledge of spiritual things can save the inherent soul, which is the psychical mind, from an everlasting living destruction of the physical mind that is very misunderstood in the apprehension of Holy Scriptures, royal science. We understand that these words will fall on deaf ears, on ears and eyes that do not believe in the invisible and everlasting consciousness of man. We know very well the modern scribes and Pharisees that are maleficent by nature, who claim to be scholars and interpreters of biblical truths, but only promotes the campaign of the misinterpretations of the Royal Science Archives, particularly Matthew 10:28. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. This monstrous misinterpretation of this scripture is given a pseudo understanding that the soul, or the psychical mind, is totally annihilated after the death of the physical, biological organism, giving it an unconscious state far below that of natural sleep. For even in natural sleep, the mind is still active in the dream world. These are insinuating a non-awareness, a non-cognizant of the five senses in its purest state, when the consciousness is bereaved from the physical body. As we come to understand the carnal mind and its grave limitations from being confined to the darkness of the abyss, dichotomized from the heavens of lights by a great impenetrable gulf, being unable to decipher scripture intelligibly with spiritual comprehension resonating from the light of Yahshua the Mashiach, the divine word of power. We can very much see how the errors occur in this apprehension. These so-called scribes and also some common men, when indulging in royal science, are isolating the divine scriptures, unaware of their harmonious existence and their organic, inseparable oneness as an unbreakable unity. They are not following the laws, rules, or the instructions from their fellow spiritual scientists of antiquity. Here's one of the equations that they failed to ascertain. Isaiah 28:10. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. If these modern day Pharisees and Sadducees would have heeded this very important instruction, they would have procured and electrically connected Matthew 10:28 like the Birkeland currents. Matthew states, "Do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." Now, outside and of the carnal mind, there is something that is called the spiritual mind. For the carnal mind is within the spiritual mind, which is in turn within the divine mind. The carnal mind is the outer court of the more excellent tabernacle. Thus, the spiritual mind is the holy place of this more spiritual tabernacle. The most holy place is the divine mind of Yahweh. The spiritual mind / holy place is where we are to stand, meaning consciously cognizant. According to the instructions of royal science, ascertain this. Matthew 24:15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination and desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whosoever reads, let him understand. This, of course, is not referring to the physical tabernacle of the Hebrews, for the abomination and desolation spoken of in Daniel. This would not save one from this type of spiritual attack. In this upper mind, one would clearly see that to be afraid with fear, according to Matthew, one would have to be cognizant and fully alert with sense awareness. Behold, these equations from royal science, Luke 13:28. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth when ye shall see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of Elohim, and you yourselves thrust out. With a vouchsafe higher understanding of this scripture, it is clearly stated that there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This can only happen if one is not asleep or annihilated, destroyed as to not exist. It is a fully conscious and perceptive state with sense awareness. It would be impossible to thrust a non-existing being out. Matthew 13:42. And shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There should be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Revelation 20:14. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. If one will work out this equation, he will see the mathematical truth that the second death is itself the lake of fire, which is a fiery, forever existing mind with a dark consciousness filled with burning, repulsive, offending, revengeful thoughts, with emotional, odious base creatures in states of a dark, tenacious, and inimical nature. This annotation from royal science also shows that the death or first death, which is the only annihilation relative to the physical body that will be in an unconscious sleep due to the lack of vitality from the soul or psychical mind. The whole satanic hierarchy is thrown into a state of oblivion in Revelation 19:20. And the beast was sieged, and with him the false prophet, who performed the signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worship his image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire, which burns with brimstone. Wait a moment. This sounds very familiar, my fellow intelligentsia. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Oh, I remember. This quote is from your own fellow scientists of old, who anyone that studies science must embark upon and use as a foundation. This further demonstrates by the key word alive, which is hidden from those in the outer court, carnal mind, will be an everlasting conscious sense-based death, in contrast to everlasting conscious sense-based life. Both are everlasting. The same is here in royal science. Death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is a transforming of the energy of death and Hades into another form called the lake of fire. Wow, the carnal mind is truly blind and deaf beyond comprehension. As said above, to initiate modern science, a scientist or a practitioner of this field will have to follow rules and laws, a certain protocol, even indulging in the studying of books written from his or her dispensation and in times of antiquity to get the desired results from whatever one is seeking to obtain or understand. It is the same in royal science. If one seeks to obtain and understand anything in this royal spiritual branch of science, that person would have to also follow rules, laws, protocol, and indulge in the studies of our books, which are the Holy Bible and other diverse books written by the inspiration of the Creator, known in accordance with the true spoken word of the Holy Scriptures, of the divine. Now that we have come to an understanding of the forthcoming brevity of the subject at hand, and have also conversed on certain misconceptions in royal science that will be otherwise abstruse to the reader due to the fallacy of the carnal mind, we could now venture back to analyzing these elements to expand amalgamative royal science competency. Coinage metals. We will now peer into one of the coinage metals, which is copper. Coinage metals in the periodic table consists of transition metals, which are the traditional coinage metals of copper, which is Cu, silver, Ag, and gold, Au. The chemical symbol for copper is Cu, with the atomic number of 29. The name copper comes from the Latin word cuprum, after the island of Cyprus. Copper was one of the first metals crafted by man in 9000 BY, and it was used for the forging of weapons because of its ability to be shapen and bent because of its malleability. Copper is a solid reddish-brown metallic element that can be polished to a glowing shine, bright finish from its luster. Copper is an excellent conductor of heat and electricity because of its conductivity, and it is commonly used for electrical wiring by its ductility that makes it easily pulled or stretched into a thin wire. It is also commonly used for water piping and corrosion resisting parts. Some chemical reactivity, or better yet properties, of copper are profound. It does not react to water. It also corrodes when it's exposed to air. The more specific physical properties of copper can be usually observed by using our senses or evolving numerical measurements. In royal science, this is the prophet or sleeping saint element or disposition. Behold and see it plainly here. It is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Romans 13 and 11. Awake to righteousness and sin not. 1 Corinthians 15 and 34. Awake thou that sleeps. Ephesians 5:14. Each of those calls made to the saints are exhortations addressed to them also. In modern science, copper chemical symbol is Cu, informing this elemental person that Yahweh of the heavens or higher consciousness sees you. It is also asking this disposition the question, do you see you? Do you not see who you are? He is seeking to awaken these types of people. The word, is seeking to awaken this elemental quality. The physical element of copper's atomic number is 29. This is one less electron/sin than lithium, showing that there is no self-terminating factor in copper. Copper was one of the first metals crafted by man, so also in royal science, these with the disposition of the element copper are also crafted from the foundation of the world. Ephesians 1:4. According as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, to be receivers of truth and establishers of righteousness as worker apparatuses, to bring heaven on earth. Yahweh is seeking to forge them into weapons of truth towards the restoration of the new heavens and the new earth state. The physical element of copper can be polished to a glowing, shine, bright finish. The spiritual element can also be polished by the word of Yahweh. When this disposition lines its will with the word of Yahweh, who is Yahshua the Mashiach, this forms a glowing, shining, bright finish. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Copper is an excellent conductor of heat and electricity. Thus, in royal science, the trials, heat from trials, burning bush not being consumed, and electricity, which are tribulations, as in Luke 10:18. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Therefore, the copper disposition is made a perfect conductor of heat and electricity to withstand this type of application. Copper is also commonly used for water piping. Now, in royal science, water represents, in this case, the great mass of thoughts that conforms to environments. The copper disposition is the dispersive organizers of these waters. Lo, royal science, Ode 6, from the Odes of Solomon. For there went forth a stream, and it became a river, great and broad. For it flooded and broke up everything, and it brought water to the temple. And the children, the restrainers of the children of men, were not able to restrain it, nor the arts of those whose business it is to restrain waters. For it spread over the face of the whole earth, and filled everything. And all the thirsty upon the earth was given to drink of it, and thirst was relieved and quenched. For from the Most High the drought was given. Blessed then are the ministers of that drought, who were entrusted with that water of his. It is known that copper has corrosion-resisting parts, whereby it is known in royal science that copper does not corrode, or rather become profane from the distribution from these spiritual waters by the eternal, cohesive, resisting qualities of the copper element disposition. Now, if copper remains in the sinful nature, resisting the blessed fire, the etheric, fiery nature of the air, that is called the anger of Yahweh, which in modern science, the electron works with the weak nuclear force that causes radioactive decay. If the person with this copper sleeping saint disposition remains asleep in the terrain, then the over-infernals of the hell consciousness would necessarily take place, overcoming this copper disposition and rendering it useless and tasteless, unsavory, deemed good for nothing. For many are called, but few are chosen. This is Royal Science, Matthew 22 and 14. Matthew 5 and 13. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is therefore good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of man. Moreover, they are specific qualities of copper that can be usually observed by the senses. The fruits of this type of people, when awakened, can be clearly seen by man through the 5 gates / the 5 senses, which they are without excuse. End of reading 5.